It's not one who's, really heavy-handed with pushing, his agenda or anything. And so, I think he always felt like it was nothing that needed to be there. But we've got so many fans from Canada, and there are a lot of ties between Canada and sort of what we're going with Gathering Storm. It's a country that's changing a lot as climate change is happening. Yeah. So it just seemed like, why not before is a good question, but, now is absolutely the right time.
Another really fun thing about them is that we like to highlight civilizations that are really good at different sort of areas of the map that might not have been quite explored before. So having Canada be have their bonuses tie partially around diplomacy, like you're saying, but also partially around snow and tundra tiles, which other civilizations don't find as valuable, is a really fun play style. It lets you sort of sneak in and make really prospering cities where other civilizations can't really get a foothold.
Yeah, I think we first started to explore that in Civilization 5. We put in Morocco, who was really good in the desert, Brazil, who was really good in the jungle, and all of a sudden it became really apparent to me that, if you liked to settle places where no one else wanted to be, it just took a lot of pressure off you in the game. And we'll see as we talk about Canada's bonus that they are a great civ for those people who are like builder players who don't want a lot of conflict and don't want, the AI or the other players necessarily to be up in their face all the time.
Don't want to aggressively forward settle or try to take territory.
So Canada just has a great little niche that way for people who like to play with that style. And so we're, it fits together as a nice package.
Yeah, I think we are going to see some really interesting bits of this when we jump into our saves today. And if you're one of those people that just kind of sticks around for the first save, stay for the second save. We've got something in that save that we have not talked about at all. It's really going to shake up one of our victory conditions and a lot of the gameplay. And I know that you're very excited about it.
Yeah, we've been teasing it a little bit on social media, but nobody's really latched on to where we're going with it. So it's super exciting that we have brand new content to reveal here.
All right, well, let's go ahead and open up the game and take a look at this map that we've got. Now, Ed, we're in this part of the project where, everyone's kind of playing the game a lot. We're checking the balance, fixing bugs, making sure everything is feeling polished and fresh for our upcoming release date. So this is one of your games that you've been playing, right?
It is.
Okay, tell us a little bit about what's going on here.
Okay, so we set this up and we knew that we had just announced the Maori and Hungary in our last 2 live streams, so we made sure that they were going to be 2 of the 8 civs that we were going to feature as opponents this time. So you could see the leaders, animations, and so forth. Well, just so happened that those are the 2 civs that happened to be settled pretty much right next to us.
Yep.
And Hungary in particular, I've had a bunch of issues with. Now, as Canada, you want to, don't necessarily have to go for the diplomatic victory, but you want to build up diplomatic favor. That's one of your big strengths. You can kind of steer the World Congress in the direction you like. So I've been working on that, and it actually frustrated me a couple of times because Hungary attacked some city-states. And that's not a behavior that we really want our Hungarian AI to have. Because Matthias likes to keep city-states around.
Because you can levy them and use them,
Right. So we actually have a whole new AI attribute that we want to set for all of our AIs, and we are in the process of implementing that so that just sort of the same way we made it so that some AI civs don't actively pursue religions.
Right.
We're going to have the same kind of preference for whether or not AI civs like to attack city-states or protect city-states.
Yeah.
And Hungary's definitely one of the ones we have slated to, any day now we'll have the new changes online so that they will not attack city-states. But when I played this game, boom, they went right after city-state twice. So if we look at Matthias, maybe we look at the grievance log, you can see that a couple of times, we'll have to wait till the AI turns finish here.
Everybody wants our favor. We're just piling it up, I guess.
Well, that is what Canada does. Right?
Yeah.
It's going to make them a very strong player in the World Congress.
They're the broker of diplomatic favor. They're the middle ground that everybody comes and meets and is friends with.
So one thing that to keep in mind is I pushed getting alliances in this game because if we go up and we look at how the breakdown per turn of favor goes, you'll see that You get a little bit for being suzerain of a city-state. You get some for which government you're in.
Your government, yeah.
But you also get 1 for each alliance that you have.
Yeah, and those are the sort of like per turn trickles that you get of favor. They're like more dramatic one time, like some of the emergencies will give you favor, but that's your sort of like steady stream of favor.
Right. So when we first opened the save, I think we were getting 7 or more favor per turn. Now our alliance is just all renewed on us.
Right.
So we'll have to get them back in play because we lost. I guess we were up to +9 because I think I had 5 alliances going on.
I think you had all 5 active, yeah.
So
I do want to pause you right here because this is a brand new unit that I don't think we've talked about just yet on a stream, correct? The Courser?
This is the Courser, yeah.
Right.
I think we've talked about the Skirmisher, but not this one.
Right. So this is a light cavalry unit. It goes between the horsemen and the more advanced cavalry unit. So
Global unit. Everyone can get it.
Everyone can get it. So the fact that Canada has them here is I had horsemen's earlier. I fought 2 wars, I think, with Hungary already. You'll notice that one of the cities we have just to the northeast of Ottawa has a very Hungarian name to it, and that's because it was settled sort of on the edge of our
yeah, there it is.
of our tundra land, and we were hoping to get there first, but Hungary did. And so what ended up happening is I got that city in one of our wars, and then there's another Hungarian city north of Montreal that I picked up through loyalty.
Okay, so it became a free city.
It became a free city,
yeah.
And that was sort of right at the start of a war that we had. So the other thing that we've been doing here is we have the Dance of the Aurora Pantheon. So our holy sites down in the snow and tundra are very, very strong. We also have a brand new natural wonder, Pamukkale.
Oh, Pamukkale. Is that how you
Yes.
say that? Okay.
And so that natural wonder gives you extra adjacency bonuses. Normally natural wonders just give you adjacency bonuses for holy sites, but this gives it to all sorts of different districts, entertainment complexes, and so forth.
It gives you some amenities as well, because it's like historically it was a site of hot springs. I think there's even some ruins of Roman baths there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was actually looking up the history of this site, and it seemed like it was the hot spot, pun intended, for ancient peoples just go relax at these spa places.
And if you're living in the snow and tundra, you know,
it's the place to be.
That's exactly where you want to be.
So naturally, because we are playing Canada, we had to have our hot chocolate, our cookies, nice warm fireplace over here, and our cozy blankets.
And now we have Mounties too.
Yeah,
Perfect.
there we go.
So you can see that I've actually expanded. I settled the city of Hamilton, and then I expanded out a couple extra tiles in a particular direction because I knew those were all nice high appeal tiles that we could get our first national park assembled with. So Mounties are sort of very emblematic of Canada in general, and you know, we thought about other ways we could go with unique units, but we're like, this is a game we actually have national parks in as a key mechanic. We think that Canada is going to be good at the culture victory. We want to encourage those kind of players to get tourism because that's another facet that's helping them earn favor.
Right.
So we just decided we had to go with the Mountie and give them a national park tie.
Yeah.
So each Mountie gets 1 charge towards forming a national park. It's really a cool strategy because you can go for the culture victory without necessarily having to go for a religious route. Now, in this game, I have chosen to go a religious route.
Yeah, I noticed hockey has been spreading throughout the map.
Hockey is all over the place. And there's a lot of backstory with hockey and Canada being introduced. And I think that's another reason that we had to go with Canada this time. So Jason Johnson, who was our art director.
Yeah, he was on our second stream.
Right, in last week's stream. And he also, you know, art director for both Rise and Fall and Gathering Storm. He and I are both big hockey fans, like, you know, the main sport that we follow these days. Unfortunately, in the Mid-Atlantic region here, hockey is sort of divided up into...
It can be contentious.
Yeah, a couple different like subsects of that religion.
Yeah.
And as soon as we realized the hockey rink was going in, we started looking at concept art. And Jason's part of the gold and black sect of hockey, and I'm much more a red, white, and blue hockey denomination.
The colors don't get along very
yeah, what color are we going to make this hockey rink? And
So how did you decide?
Jason
scissors,
was going for the diplomatic victory. And so he proposed early on that we had to have a truce here.
Okay.
And he said, what about Firaxis colors and logos?
Aw, okay.
And so that's what we went with. That was,
Nice.
you know, very diplomatic of him.
Yes, of course. Yeah, Albert, could you just take a quick glance at one of these hockey rinks, just for anyone who hasn't seen it yet? They're really
Maybe
cool.
turn off yield icons too.
Yeah, just for 1 second. Aw. Now, you can only build one per city, right?
Right. And I actually, because Jason and I are such big hockey fans, I felt really bad for the artists working on the hockey rinks this time. Because they kept getting comments like, no, the blue line's not in the right place.
Oh my gosh.
Or, no, that's a little bit too much room behind the net.
It's non-regulation.
Yes, we need to have regulation. So the other cool thing about the hockey rinks is, you know, why did we do an outdoor rink? Some people are like, we could have just done a stadium replacement. But the more you kind of get into the cult of hockey, I watch the Winter Classic games the NHL puts on where they do outdoor games. They started just doing it on January 1st for New Year's, but now they have like 4 or 5 outdoor games a year. And they go back to the fact that sort of as you grew up in Canada, one of the things that a lot of people do is they go out onto, you know, the ponds and lakes or outdoor rinks and they play
pickup games.
Your first pickup games of hockey are all outdoor games. And that just seemed so Canadian to me, so, you know, sort of important to how we wanted to portray the Canadian culture to everybody, that we just decided that an outdoor rink was going to be a lot cooler, a lot more visible. We could tie it in with adjacency bonuses.
Right. Yeah.
It could be part of trying to make sure you incorporated a lot of snow and tundra tiles.
Seeing it right on the terrain there is really cool too.
Yeah, so we went for that approach.
Yeah, so I'm not very much of a hockey person, but like, why did you choose the hockey rink? Like, is this a very big, important part of, you know, the landscape? I don't know how many hockey rinks exist.
Yeah, we're certainly exaggerating the scale, but I've loved actually the comments since we announced Canada this week, that the game, we got comments that we got it all wrong because there's no Canadian city that only has one hockey rink. And we do have the limitation in our game that you can only build one hockey rink per city. And they're like, you know, here in Edmonton, we have 300 hockey rinks. What are you doing? That's just so wrong. So, you know, I think based on that kind of response, you can kind of see why it was just a great choice for a way to go with Canada.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, now one of the really cool things about how Canada plays is how it's going to play into the World Congress. So I want to, whoop, there we are. I want to.
What perfect timing.
Yes. So here we go, World Congress.
This is a special session. So this
Special session.
Yes.
behaves a little bit differently.
Yeah, what does that mean? We haven't actually jumped into the World Congress. I think the Canada first look was the first time we even showed a little bit of the World Congress.
Right. So this is a special session, which means it was triggered by something happening in the world. So it's very much like those emergencies people got used to from Rise and Fall.
Yeah, so in this case, Victoria, I think, had a natural disaster occur in one of her lands. So she spent some of her own diplomatic favor to say, hey, world, I need some help. You know, things are looking kind of rough over here. So this special session, like, everybody's coming together and deciding, do we want to put on the docket to help Victoria or not? And so Albert is going to vote yes for us.
Yes, and so, yeah, I'm not sure if it was visible early in the stream, but there was a blizzard in the mid-fog over Victoria's empire. So,
that's right. That's probably
so
what
it was the blizzard that caused this. And this resolution just passed. There were 9 powers, including us, that voted for it. And for some reason, Genghis voted 5 times. Now, it makes sense that Victoria voted strongly for it.
Sure.
She's the one that's going to receive the aid.
Yeah.
So as you can send aid in one of 2 ways. There are city projects you can run that will forward aid to that party. And then there are also the ability to send aid just by opening up the trade screen.
Yeah.
And you can send diplomatic favor, you can send gold, I believe.
Yeah. we were just playing a multiplayer game a few days ago, and you were playing the Maori, and you had an aid request that you had triggered, and so I was sending you gold over and over because I had a very good gold strategy, and I think you made probably like 500 or 600 gold off of that. But I didn't quite.
I felt bad about it.
Yeah, I didn't quite win the emergency. Our AI programmer Drew won the emergency instead, so he got a diplomatic victory point for that. But I was trying hard for it.
Right.
But yeah, so it gives like another sort of interesting use for going to another player and just giving them a gift. For the AI, that can certainly be useful to kind of get them on your side. But in multiplayer, like unless you're allies or scheming something, there's no not a real choice there. But with the aid request, it can be really important. So yeah. Looks like our national park just went in, so that's great.
Now, speaking of the World Congress, though, we do have a event in progress right now, the World's Fair.
We do, yeah. So now we have the World's Fair and the aid request that just went up. Right.
And so the World Congress tracker is up to the right of all of our leader icons on the top screen. And that tells you how many turns it is until the next World Congress session.
Right.
So since we are far enough in the game that the World Congress has been going on, you can also click on that tracker to see what the results from previous sessions were.
Ooh.
So that's the active effect of what's going on based on the previous session. There's a luxury.
Looks like incense is going to be worth more amenities. Yeah.
Right. So this is kind of a good example of how we have a more flexible system here in Civ 6 than we had in Civ 5. In Civ 5, you could ban luxuries.
Right.
But here, there's sort of a plus and a downside to each of the different types of resolutions. So the world didn't decide to ban a specific luxury here. They decided to sort of increase demand for it.
Yeah.
And so you can check and see, which proposals went in. We could see that the World's Fair had been passed there as well.
Yes, the World's Fair, I believe, we'll get points every turn based on our Great People points.
Right.
Because the whole idea behind the World's Fair is to send your best and your brightest to go show off, your civilization's wonders to the rest of the world. So based on who gets the most points for that, by the end, they'll get a certain bonus. And then depending on how well you perform sort of in the rankings, you'll get other smaller bonuses.
And typically, there's a winner award, and then there are tiered awards for at least being in the top half of the participants.
Right.
Nice. Now, the World's Fair is always the great person competition, correct?
Right.
Okay, that's cool. But there are a couple other besides Emergencies, World Fair. There's World Games.
World Games. There's the International Space Station has come back as well.
Yeah, that certainly helps with the science victory. And one of the civs we haven't revealed yet kind of has some special interactions with some of those global competitions as well. I mean, Canada has one benefit in that the emergencies and the competitions they'll get extra favor from, but someone we'll talk about a little bit later get some even cooler bonuses related to that.
All right, now I know there were a couple other things that we wanted to talk about with this save before we dive into the second one.
Actually, one thing I want to show before we go too far in is just the Maori position, sort of a flashback to last week's save. So the Maori started out in our ocean here, and they immediately found land and put their capital down on a narrow spit of land, which obviously was not going to do for the whole game for them. They needed to do a little bit better than that.
So
they sailed east, and this is all the Maori AI, so it's very interesting. And like I was talking about in the stream last time, they didn't have any lands dedicated to them. They were going to have to carve out their own niche. So with ourselves, Canada, and with Hungary both being pretty well established on the western half of this continent, they were going to have to push their way in. And you can see they did some of that by settling for their own cities. They also conquered Valletta and Geneva, two city-states. So if we look at the score screen, I was really impressed with how well the Maori AI was doing. Coupe's right up there. I mean, given where he started and that he had no land allocated with him, he's doing really well. But, it's a tough spot. People were like, why are the Maori so powerful? Well, they need to be because, they gotta fight their way tooth and nail for everything they're gonna get.
There's a lot more unknowns, yeah. You
now,
might just be on a little skinny island in the middle of the ocean. You have to figure it out 20 turns in.
I actually have been playing a multiplayer game where that's where I started, and it's a challenge for sure.
On a little island like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
The same multiplayer game we played when you had the aid request. You settled your city like right next to my heartland, and I was like, "What are you doing here?"
I was thankful that you were diplomatic with me in that.
Yeah,
game.
well, we had to team up against Albert and Carl in QA because they're a lot better than us. So
Yes.
I decided to keep the peace for us.
Now, when we did have the screen showing all of the Civ scores, I know that a lot of people have called out the jersey system. So I just wanted to take a minute to note that, you know, there are bugs with it. It's not quite working right.
It's actually really interesting how aggressive we want it to be in terms of when it should flip over and how it should satisfy colorblind players. And so there's been a lot of tuning that's been still going on there. I have a whole slew of emails in my inbox about different possible settings for that we're looking at right now. So there are cases, especially in the save, where you might even, the Maori and England are way too close right now. But, you know, that's something we're working on. So rest assured, we should get that to a nice place by the time Gathering Storm comes out.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is, you know, we are doing these live streams during development, and it's actually somewhat useful to see things called out by the fans that were like, oh, maybe we haven't noticed that, or the QA department hasn't found it yet. And also just playing in this very different setting reveals things that we may not have seen before.
Sure.
But yeah, we're working hard.
Looks like we just hit a drought. Maybe we can find out where that's on the map. I'm not sure if it's in... Oh, yep, here we go.
It's up by America, yeah.
Cleveland, the great Cleveland-Baltimore drought. Actually, if we go to the climate screen, we can see what... It will have picked one of the cities to name the drought after. Oh, and it is the Cleveland drought.
Oh, the withering drought.
That's sad. What will the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame do if it's under drought? I don't know. We'll have to
tourism
think about
might
that.
go down.
Yeah. So yeah, Cleveland's going to be losing a lot of food. All the sort of farming-related improvements nearby have been pillaged.
That has no upside, does it?
I think once the rains come back, they will restore some fertility.
Yeah, it doesn't really have an upside. Actually, although it looks like, does Cleveland have an aqueduct? Because aqueducts and dams do protect you, yes, from some of the effects of the drought. So I believe your improvements get pillaged, but you don't lose the 1 food per tile that most droughts hit you with. So that's sort of a bonus that we added for building aqueducts in cities. And so
just it's similar to how the dam or the Great Bath Wonder will sort of
we've tried to make it so that sort of well-constructed cities are going to give you the ability to withstand droughts. And you had mentioned before we went on the air that there was one other thing we wanted to do, sort of to emphasize how smart play can help limit some of the damage from the natural wonders.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of damage from natural wonders.
Major flood.
But we've got a dam.
We've got a dam in place. Yeah. Okay, so we're not seeing those surging rainwaters washing up over the banks of the rivers because we had the dam in place. That was very well timed.
I just hit the flood button. It's on the chair here.
Yeah.
Good job, Anton.
You had the flood on the dammed river button. Wow, very specific. So anyways, what I was headed towards was one of our new governor effects with Liang, which we can go ahead and pop open her promotion page, is she has the reinforced materials.
Yep.
And so that actually you can choose, like I'm particularly worried about this city, maybe because it's in a hurricane alley and the hurricanes keep coming there.
There's a volcano that just went active and I got a lot of...
Or this is a river I am not going to be able to get to putting a dam in place on right away. So you can get her to the right area and help mitigate those effects.
Yeah.
Now we've also updated Moksha, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, let's take a look at that.
And he has had quite a few updates, but the most important one is the Divine Architect down in the lower right corner, which I made sure to buy for this live stream because I was doing so well with faith and religion in this game.
I think Albert used it earlier, to buy a district with faith. So that's a really cool ability, especially if you're raking in the faith like we are with our Pantheon bonus.
Right. I'm not really trying to go for the religious victory, but I'm just trying to use faith in a lot of cool, smart ways. So
I think that'll come in handy in our next save as well.
Just might, yes.
Is there anything else that you want to look at in this save before we bring it back to the studio and jump forward?
I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we hit everything too. So let's go ahead and pull that back to the studio. Now we did have a couple of questions during that I want to ask you. So where do Mounties unlock?
I believe it's conservation.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Alongside national parks.
Yeah,
You're right,
with the
Ed,
national
lead
parks.
designer.
Sometimes it's a little bit of a trivia question, remembering
I know.
You know, where everything
Remembering
is.
exactly where.
But it's helpful to have
everything
played
was.
Canada recently, so that's one reason I do like to play that Civ right before we live stream them.
It's funny, like doing design and development during, you know, all of this too, because like I might remember what it was 3 versions ago before we changed it, but like, they all kind of jumble together in my head. So.
Okay, I'm just going through the chat because I know there were a couple of questions. We're having a lot of questions about late game agendas.
Okay.
I know we've talked a little bit about that. If you want to give any more information.
Sure. So what we've done is we added, I would say 6 to 8 new agendas. I can't remember what the exact number is. They're not all necessarily late game agendas. Some are ones just that we wanted to get into the game. So there's one called the Great White Fleet, which is sort of the Teddy Roosevelt's agenda to have a giant navy. So he already has his own agenda. We're not actually changing the big stick policy agenda that he already has, but we thought he kind of had these several cool historic things that could have worked into agenda. So that's now a random agenda that everyone can have. But what we decided is that these second agendas were going to be introduced when each civilization hit nationalism.
Yeah.
It seemed like an appropriate time for them to sort of refocus their national plan. And that some of these new agendas that we're going to be adding were going to be focused on really pushing towards a specific victory type. So there's one that you choose if you really are going for a culture victory. Or there's another one, if you're particularly worried about one civilization getting to a victory type, there's what we call blocking agendas. So there's one where you just sort of discourage that kind of cultural play and are trying not to get there. So we'll see as we get into the save, we have a chance to look at some of the leaders. We could look at the agendas. But that's sort of what the idea is to give people the ability to sort of focus some of the diplomacy around whether they're trying to really push science right now, maybe slow down culture, those kind of things.
Yeah.
All right. So why, this isn't quite what they're asking, but I think it's a good segue into it. Why did we choose Wilfred Laurier to lead Canada? What was it about him that really spoke to you?
Okay, well, one thing we felt strongly about for Canada was we wanted to push this role for the Canadians to be the civ that goes and gets involved in world politics, sort of to, you know, join in an ally in war or to respond to an emergency. And Laurier was sort of right around the period where Canada's getting involved in the First World War. So, you know, that World War period was where we wanted to look for leaders. Yeah, something that we have to consider that maybe we don't talk a lot about with fans, but as we get really, really close to the modern times, there just are some legal restrictions.
Yes.
For, you know, what we, you know, they're Canadian leaders whose families are still involved in Canadian politics.
Right.
There are, you know, actually, if you look at our list of great writers and other great people, there's sort of a cutoff.
They get sparse towards the modern times.
Yeah. So Canada, you know, once we introduce a civ like that, it does get tougher.
Yeah.
And what really attracted us to Laurier is Canada had a lot of trouble sort of uniting the fact that, you know, large portions of it were settled by France, and then other portions of it were British colonial possessions, and they had to all work together. And he was you know, sort of a unifying voice for Canada, really bringing those two parts of the country together. It also let us set him up to be a voice actor who could speak both French and English.
Nice.
And we've done that.
We have a
with
couple bilingual leaders.
And the bilingual leaders are always sort of popular for their ability to switch back and forth between languages. And so we wanted to go with Laurier for those reasons.
Nice. All right, so we've jumped into a new game here, and this is in the modern age.
Right. The same game.
It is the same
further
game,
on.
yes. So first things first, we've got railroads.
We do, yeah.
Railroads are back.
So Albert had 2 military engineers there, and he's starting to build railroads on top of those roads from the trade routes. So railroads are really cool. They are the most advanced type of road that you can make in the game. It's a quarter of a movement point to move from one to another, which is 4 times faster than normal. We just got a new historic moment for connecting 2 of our cities with railroads for the first time, which is really cool.
Good job, everyone.
Yes, particularly Albert, well done. So yeah, that's another historic moment. And there's, I think probably 20 or 30 new historical moments as well. But so the way you make railroads is you unlock steam power in the industrial era. You have to have military engineers to do it. It takes a little bit more effort than like just normally sending a trade route.
Right.
You build them tile by tile, but they don't require any charges. You just build them with 1 iron resource and 1 coal resource. So each track you want to lay down costs 1 of each. Those will contribute to climate change. So spending your coal will start to affect the global temperature, and it'll also, compete with your supply if you're using coal power plants to power your cities and stuff like that. But that's how you get railroads. And not only will they help your units move faster, they're also going to help if you have trade routes between cities. Moving along a railroad will make them much more lucrative. You'll get a lot more gold out of it.
Nice. Everyone likes a little more gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, why don't we open up the climate screen?
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah, I'm curious to know how we're doing.
There. Okay, so we have just hit, we can notice that we have 7 bars, progress bars up along the top, and the first phase has just triggered.
Yeah.
So now 10% of the polar ice in the world has melted. People have noticed that our ice looks different than it did before. Before we had like massive sheets of ice that were sort of like permanently in place.
Yeah.
And now our ice is much more flexible, sort of, in terms of whether it's there or not.
Can grow or shrink, yeah.
So the sea level has risen only by ½ a meter. So at
Not
this
enough to
point,
change the map just
right,
yet.
no map changes have happened yet, but when the next time it happens, we will experience some coastal tiles not being lost entirely, but flooded, and they're going to have to be protected by a flood barrier.
Actually, real quick too, could we, while we had that open, the CO2 levels, there's another tab here. So we can sort of see a breakdown of, which players are contributing CO2 to the atmosphere, and also what are the resources that are sort of like to blame for that. So we can sort of break it down by, many different factors. So I think in this game, Albert hasn't really gotten any barely any CO2 emissions so far. Probably just from the railroads.
I think it's just from the railroads because he's just, I think, about to put a coal plant online.
Right.
But money. I want that gold.
Yeah.
No, you're gonna go ahead. The game I was talking about last week, where I actually didn't burn any carbon all game, is just not the usual way you're going to want to play. It's definitely a skewed way to play the game, but there are just too many reasons you need coal and oil.
Yeah, at least for a while to kind of power your cities and get your railroads down, and but then later on in the future technology, you'll unlock some much cooler ways to provide power.
And I think there was a blizzard on the map this turn.
I saw that too. I think it was over in England somewhere.
It might be in the fog of war.
I don't know if we can see it or not. We're kind of lucky. It seems like Victoria's getting the blizzards first.
Our tundra is protected.
Yeah, she must
somehow.
have taller hills than we do, and the snow's falling there.
Now, one of our civs actually has a bit of a benefit with blizzards, correct?
Right, that's Russia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. What does that do for them?
Okay,
exactly?
so if
I
they're...
just think it's really neat.
So if there are military units underneath a blizzard, they're going to take damage, unless they're Russian.
Oh,
Russian
okay.
units never take damage from blizzards.
All right, they're just so bundled.
And Russian invaders in Russian territory, when the blizzard hits, are going to take double damage. So it's very much what happened to Napoleon
It's what
and
France
Hitler's.
tried, what Germany tried.
Yeah, exactly.
Just doesn't
Everyone
work
had
out.
trouble with the Russian winter, so You know, we felt like that was a cool thing to put in here. Okay, so let's try to figure out, I know what Albert's strategy is. You can see he is plowing.
Piling in the favor.
We have stockpiled quite a bit of favor, but he is going all in on the migration treaty.
Yeah, I saw him checking some Hungarian cities for what their loyalty was.
Right.
Yeah, so Hungary is currently in a dark age, so they're already not having a lot of
basically
loyalty
what
going
he's
on.
doing with this is he's making it so a whole bunch of immigrants are going to land in Hungary, and Hungary's going to get extra population growth.
Plus 20% growth, yeah.
Right, but they're going to lose city loyalty. And so he is hoping that that's going to trigger the scales towards, you know, some internal unrest in Hungary.
Flipping some free
And
cities
given how
and
much
stuff
favor
like
he
that.
just put in it, I think he's pretty confident that that's going to work.
Yeah, we also have a diplomatic victory resolution up. So he's going to vote for ourselves to get 2 diplomatic victory points and putting some favor into that as well.
Right, now I'm curious as to whether or not he can juggle both of these World Congress initiatives at the same time.
It is tricky. As the number of votes increase, it's sort of
The
like
first
exponentially
vote on
off.
every resolution is free.
Right.
But so basically he paid for 9 votes on the migration treaty and he paid for 4 more votes on the diplomatic victory resolution. So we'll see in a second. Okay, everyone else
now
just got their vote in and the screen will refresh. And
Hey,
the
All
migration
right.
treaty passed.
49 votes went into it. People really cared about it.
Everyone wanted somebody to have that. And it looks like we weren't the only. Even the Scots voted to have Hungary get some migrants from them as well. So, yeah, that passed pretty overwhelmingly.
He has been a little warmongery.
The Hungarian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure that they have the best reputation. Oh, and here we go. The World's Fair finished.
Yeah, so the World's Fair finished. It looks like we might have only made 5th place.
Yeah.
We might not have had quite enough great people points. So we're not going to get really any rewards, but
But nothing bad will happen
Nothing
to
bad
us,
happens,
right?
no.
Okay. It was just an opportunity to participate.
yeah.
Right. So are we ready to move on to the mystery icon?
A lot of people have called it out in chat. I've been watching. Okay. Go
All right.
ahead and mouse over it. Rock bands.
Woo!
Ed, why rock bands? Where did this come from?
Okay, so there is a bit of a backstory here. We wanted to extend the timeline of the game.
Yes.
We wanted to have enough time for climate change to play out. So we knew that the culture and science victories had to change here in Gathering Storm.
And we knew we were adding the diplomatic victory as well.
Right. And so we have 3 victories. They're all going to have to take place later in the game than anything that we'd seen before. And I think we'd actually already had our plan for what we're going to do with the science victory in place. You'll be talking about that.
Probably next week.
Yeah, or soon. Anton was sort of the brainchild, you know, that was his brainchild there, and he had a great plan for that one. But we were struggling a little bit as to what to do with the culture victory. So we got all 6 designers. We got Pete Murray, our writer, together. We said, we're going to have to brainstorm it and try to decide what we can do to make the culture victory more interesting. And I think I mentioned initially at the meeting that the one thing that I thought had been pretty fun about the Civ 5 culture victory that we hadn't really recaptured in Civ 6 was that if you got a great musician, you could actually do a tourism bomb on the other
Yeah.
Civs in Civ 5.
Yeah.
And that sometimes that was actually the triggering event that pushed you over the finish line.
It's a little bit more active. You were pushing the numbers forward.
So yeah, you were out there on the map, you were trying to figure out which civilization you needed
Who
to.
do I need to target?
Yeah, and so you actually had to send your musician there. But I always felt like it was happening like in the 1980s or 1990s, and I was sending Stravinsky or Chopin
Yeah.
or somebody out there, and it just didn't.
They don't rock quite as hard.
No, and we actually called it perform concert. We called it perform concert, and I kept imagining it was this really cool rock band, and
Yeah.
I looked at it, and there was a guy with a violin or something like that. So I threw that out there to our group, and we're like, well, what if we actually added rock bands? And it was one of those moments, which is really cool in game design, where as soon as we brought that idea up, everyone started riffing off
Yeah.
of it. And, like half an hour later, we had the full design for what we're going to do with the rock band unit. And I think we had it in the game in a week. We asked a whole bunch of things to the art department. They couldn't get that done in a week, but, they've been scrambling for a while to catch up with us. But You know, it was just a great idea in terms of how do we make the culture victory more exciting.
Yeah, definitely. It's fun to have a more active hand in what you're doing with the victories, and I think it definitely adds a really neat layer to it. So in 2 turns, we will unlock that, and we'll be able to show that off a little bit, and I would love it if Twitch chat would help us name these. So once we unlock it, you know, think of some appropriate non-licensed names that you can give us, and we can hopefully get some
So
some
the
cool
way
rock
it works
band names.
is there is a strict requirement that a rock band may not perform a concert until it has a name.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Right, right.
Yeah.
How
Gotta have a cool name.
So, but we already had this nice random name generation system that we had been putting in place for the military units.
Yep.
And that was one of the key ideas that we had in our meeting was, well, let's just leverage it, but have a different pool of names to draw on. So, you know, we kind of mix and match the same way that we do for the military units, where there's an adjective paired up with a noun. And we just created this great little database of rock band names. But what I thought was really cool was we actually added some civilization words in there.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
you know, Smashing Pantheon
Oh my God.
can be one of your band names. And we actually
So metal.
game design words went in there. So, you know, Overpowered Wombats can be, we have animal names, those kind of things are in there as well.
I'm ready
So,
for rock bands.
You know, it's fun to decide whether or not the name generator gave you a good band name or whether or not you have to create it yourself, but all those options are there for you.
Yeah.
Ooh, the civil unrests. I kind of like that.
That's pretty good.
The Arctic Hockeys.
A lot of these, I think some of these are actually possible with the name generator as well.
Feroxix.
Oh no, we've got a blizzard
Oh,
That's
are
a
those
bad
our
word.
Mounties in
International.
there?
right on top of her Mountie.
No. A crippling blizzard.
That is a downside to playing Canada.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, but
But we have
we
rock
can
bands
make
now.
up for it because we have rock bands. Oh, wow, this is a big one.
Wow, yeah, that's
Oh.
huge.
All right.
Now, you should check which way that guy's moving, Albert. You may have moved your Mountie into next turn. Oh, it's headed southwest. Okay.
Okay.
He had checked that.
Looked like the migration treaty might be paying off because one of Hungary's cities to the north is
Ooh, it's
losing
not doing well.
loyalty.
It
Yeah.
is.
So that might
Great.
pan out for us in a few
That's a
turns.
nice city, too.
Yeah. right.
Let's actually, before we create our first rock band, let's also check what happened at the. I guess we got to see the World Congress. Okay, so we're fine.
Okay. Ooh, do blizzards give any positive tile yields? No.
No, at the moment they don't. It's something that we're still
We toyed
balancing
with, yeah.
everything, and
Yeah.
it's just a couple lines of XML to put that feature in. There's the infrastructure's all there for it, but at the moment we decided it doesn't make as much sense in terms of real world behaviors. So
Yeah.
for right now, the dust storms and the blizzards do not provide fertility.
Okay. So how do you get rock bands?
Okay, so we thought about this a little bit. We were like, can you just go in and ask your cities to produce rock bands? Can you buy rock bands? And the way I think about it,
Yeah.
that's what all the mega music company executives wish you could do.
I will
you
purchase one
can't.
rock band, please.
You can't just spend money to get the best rock band. It has to come from something else.
Right.
And so
Oh my God, I see where this is going,
yes.
and I love it.
Yeah, so, it's maybe not exactly what faith was early in the game, where it was spawning the religions,
Yeah.
but it sort of seems like the modern representation of that kind of,
'Cause you feel it right here.
yes,
Inspirational spark.
yes,
I love
that
it.
spark
It's great.
is what our faith resource represents. So it's through faith that you have the ability to create rock bands. And
That's
we
awesome.
did really well here in terms of having the great natural beauty of our Canadian wilderness
Yeah.
and We set up some holy sites there. We have some natural wonders.
So our Canadians are going into the national parks. They're being so inspired that they just got to go rock out and tell the world about it.
Right. And they have these big blizzards to look at too.
Yeah.
So.
Rock band.
All right. Okay, so we've had a couple of names.
There's the civil unrests.
I really like the civil
Arctic
unrest.
Hawk.
Mind Hunted is the first random name that we got it. Now, Albert has selected our rock band, and we can immediately see that a bunch of tiles highlighted. Oh, we've created a new one. Okay, he's got
multiple rock bands.
Okay.
Okay, so this is going to give you an idea of how rock bands work. Now, rock bands can't play in your own lands.
They got to go on tour.
Right, they have to go on tour, and going to your own lands, that's just too easy. So they have to go on tour, and to some extent, that's telling you which civilization is going to receive your tourism. So it totally makes sense. And rock bands want to play at the biggest venue possible because they'll generate more tourism at a venue that can hold more people. So they can play at amphitheaters, they can play at a university, but those are going to be small-scale gigs that aren't going to generate as much tourism.
That's like the $5 to get in show.
Exactly, yeah. Buy your tickets at the door.
Yeah.
Don't have to, get online and buy your tickets months in advance. But the biggest stages are at World Wonders. So, you play Sydney Opera House, or you play the Pyramids.
It also makes for some sweet album art.
Yeah.
The Civilopedia, this is one area that we've sort of given all the gory details, all the information about which places are better. But what's really nice
Albert is not going to open.
is the highlighting of the tiles.
Yeah.
We'll tell you which tiles right away. We've also added similar highlighting for our archaeologists, so you don't have to hunt around the map for those antiquity sites. As soon as Albert chooses a city to go play at, we can go ahead and get ready for a concert.
All right, what was our first? We need to name one of these, and it's going to be the civil unrests.
Okay.
I like it.
That was
the first one I
name.
heard, and yeah, it's very Civ. It fits the loyalty situation going on to our north right now. So.
Okay. So.
All right, so we're gonna choose our own name.
Get rid of flaming science. And we're going to civil unrest.
Sounds like my high school chemistry class experience.
Bunsen burner gone wrong.
Yeah.
And we can do
now
some promotions as well.
Right, and this was sort of a fun thing that was also part of that brainstorming session is we have this random promotion system. Let's go ahead and come up with, I think we have 12 different rock band promotions. Some are about which sites you're going to be better at playing at. So that's very similar to the spy promotions where, this guy's really good at great work heists or very good at, some particular, sabotaging industrial zones, whatever.
Yeah.
But we also, the religious rock is very powerful.
I haven't seen that one.
Yes.
Can you generate faith?
No, what you do, it's even more powerful than that. So you have started a religion. If you choose religious rock and you go to a city,
It spreads.
it converts that city instantly to your religion. It's actually the only way in the game.
That's awesome.
If your holy city has been wiped out, the only way you can ever
bring
get
it
it back is with religious rock.
The power of music.
Oh, I love it. I have not had a chance to play with rock bands until we started prepping for the stream, and I only got a little bit of testing in, so I didn't see that. But I'm absolutely
The other
in love with
rock
it.
band, I have a bug sitting on my database that there's one rock band that's totally overpowered, and we have to do some design work to limit their power, and that's the indie rock promotion. So if you get an indie band, what they do is they go to a city, and their performance is so powerful that the people start to lose belief in the
Screw
regime.
the system, man.
Exactly. So one performance by an indie band right now is minus 50 loyalty
Yep.
to that city.
Yeah.
And so the bug says all you have to do is get a bunch of indie rock bands, send them around, and you can just flip wholesale enemy empires. So they'll just become free cities.
Yeah.
Because the rock is more powerful than, listening to the man, so.
I did see a question about this earlier. What happens on Victoria's side when she receives the aid request? Is there any
So the gold that we send to get points, she will get that gold.
Oh,
so that's
okay.
one thing.
Great.
I don't think the Send Aid project provides
I don't believe so either.
Okay.
it. Just gets points for the person that's spending the production.
But after the emergency has been completed, she will receive.
She actually gets it while the emergency is
cool.
going. So like, yeah, if 10 turns
Anton
in,
kept feeding me gold.
right, in a multiplayer game, yeah. So like 3 turns into the aid request for Coupe, I was like, hey Ed, here's 100 gold.
I had
he got it right
Carl
away.
on my ass, and he
Yeah.
was headed to me with a major fleet, so
So I was
I
simultaneously
needed the help.
Yeah, so I was simultaneously trying to buy myself a diplomatic victory point and helping Ed like finance a defense against Carl. That was the goal.
All right, have we moved any of these rock bands yet?
I think
Okay,
we
he's doing it
just
now.
did.
Cool.
Okay.
Someone just asked, how often can you play a concert with the rock band?
Okay, so rock bands, but let's not trigger them. Oh, we just triggered them. There we go. It's a performance by Mind Hunted.
Mind hunted.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have the rise. Oh, they were not a good band. So
Well, they were the aging rockers. Oh no,
Yes.
that was what
that's
happened.
the
to them.
result. So they
Mind
actually
hunted.
had never sold any albums previously. They were an aging rock band. They only generated 125 tourism. This is basically, and they're going out of existence.
Okay.
They're not going to get any more gigs.
All right,
So
band
that's a
broke
very
up.
poor result. We're going to have to do much better than that. But it works on a system similar to the SPY results. We have like
Makes sense.
6 different levels of SPY results. I
Right.
think we have 6 different levels of rock band results. If you get a good result, you can earn extra promotions. You will sell albums. The album sale statistic is added.
A multiplier. On
Yeah, added to your tourism in future gigs that you play. You can also level up, which is just going to give you a higher percentage chance of getting those better results.
Yeah.
So you can actually have very successful bands that can play for decades. Going around to different places. Now each band is limited to only performing once on each tile.
Okay.
So once you've chosen, a particular stadium to do a concert at, that same
They can't
band
come
can't
back.
go back there.
Okay. But it looks like the civil unrests can.
Surely they will not let us down.
Yeah, they can go back to the same place
Okay.
that Mind Hunted played. And yes, we have high hopes for civil unrest here.
Sweet drum set too.
Especially this is the
Yeah.
city that we're trying to put into civil unrest.
Yes,
right?
that's
So
fitting.
this all fits together.
Okay.
Oh, no.
They did a little better though. We got 1 star.
We got 1 star, but they had creative differences and they're breaking up. So we need another band, Albert. Hopefully we have plenty of faith. We have plenty of faith.
This is amazing.
The rock bands do get a little bit more expensive, like the other units that you buy during the game. So ultimately we'll run out of the ability to create the horrible rock bands that we're creating here. Purple Orchestra. Do we have another name from the
I'm gonna
chat?
check. I'm gonna check.
Perfume explosions, underground robots.
Okay, if they were doing better,
Albert likes underground robots, I think.
underground robots.
Yes, that's what the
Okay.
name generator came up with.
Sure. Oh, chat's moving way too fast. Oh, Carl's.
Carl's. Well, we could
Carl apostrophe S. Carl's. Possessive Carl.
So like Carl has more Carls.
Yes.
do- Okay,
The
And
band.
they're all
of-
named Carl.
Yes.
there we go. We're getting Carl's.
All right.
I hope he's
Firefly.
watching. There you go. All right. So
We have
hopefully
2 more bands, and we're going to try a lot.
Yeah.
Luckily, we saved some time for our mixed results here.
the respectful Fs. Oh, if we kill more bands, I'm gonna feel kind of bad. So is there any benefit of sending a second rock band to the same venue where the first one bombed?
No, not in
Okay.
particular. Now, but you do have to think about where you're going to send them, though, because the way the Culture Victory works, that's still in effect, in that you're trying to draw enough tourists to your civilization that you have more tourists visiting you than anyone else has domestic stay-at-home tourists. And so you want to look and see sort of who's got that largest pile of tourists.
Yeah.
And if you can choose, to target them with as many concerts as possible. There also is a promotion, I think it's called It Goes to 11, which in that particular promotion, not only does it affect just that one target civilization, but it affects any civilization that has a city within a certain number of tiles. So you can get like 3 or 4, maybe even civilizations targeted by that one. So that's a great promotion to get after your rock band's been around for a while. Is to go ahead and sort of get them playing very effectively at a certain type of venue, and then add on the Goes to 11, take it up to 11, and now all of a sudden that extra tourism that they're creating is going to hit 3 or 4 different civs at once.
I want to point out that while we've been having a lot of fun rocking out, it looks like we have coastal flooding.
Oh.
Oh, no.
Sorry, we got distracted, didn't we?
I did see Albert Pole. Yeah, so we're at climate change phase 2
right near
now.
the Giant's Causeway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we
we're at a
hit
meter.
phase 2.
All right, so what does this mean?
Okay, so
how has the map changed?
Across the map, 19 tiles have been affected. Now, I think we showed in some of the earlier streams that there's new additions to the settler lenses.
Yeah, so when you're settling,
you can identify your 1, 2, and 3 meter coastal tiles. And in this first round of flooding, it's just the 1 meter tiles that see the effects. And they are recoverable right now. So
okay.
This city, I'm not sure if it's hit any of our cities. We don't have a lot of coast.
Yeah.
But if it had hit one of our cities, then we could start a flood barrier.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the seawall that we showcased in the intro movie. You can put those to protect those tiles. Initially, it's not too expensive to put in place a flood barrier, but as the seas rise, what really hurts you there is the maintenance cost.
Right.
And it just gets more and more expensive to maintain those.
Okay.
As the seas are getting inundated. Yeah, the poor Maori homeland, they're in a lot of hurt because probably all their tiles. Now, a city center tile does not get affected.
Okay.
That sort of we're considered that as having a built-in flood barrier.
Right.
But the rest of those districts
districts
there are going to be affected.
Okay. What happens to a district when it's on there?
Well, if it's flooded, all the buildings in it are pillaged at once.
Okay.
So
Yikes.
it's bad. And you can't repair it while the floodwaters are there. So you've got to get that flood barrier up.
Just to even get the water out, and then you can start repairing.
Then you can start repairing it.
Yeah.
Oh, someone just asked, what is the Empire lens?
Okay, and that's probably a great thing for us to show right now because we have, a typical for this part of the game, 6-7 city empire. And it starts to get tricky to figure out, which cities are working, which tiles. I can't remember where all my districts are. I'm trying to figure out where my theater squares are. So it's this great way of showing you the city, the internal boundaries within your empire. You can see where the edges of the cities are. You can find out where all those districts are, all the adjacency bonuses. If you're trying to remember, like, which of my campuses had that +5 bonus.
Right.
If I put in place that social policy that really helps, high adjacency districts, how many of those do I have? So it's great at answering a lot of questions like that for you.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh, and it'll also show us what other people have as well, which is...
Yes, even really through the mid-fog. And
yeah,
so it's very helpful that way.
Yeah, that's great. I know that before the stream, Albert and I were talking about how this game has so many spies in it, and we really wanted to show off the Breach Dam mission. I don't know that we've had the opportunity to do that yet, but that's one of those cool new things.
Oh, there's the indie rock promotion. Let's go for that on the Hungarian city that's already shaky on loyalty.
Yeah.
Do we have any wonders around that we can play at and get some more?
There definitely are wonders around. I think Jebel Barkal is up there
Ooh,
near Buddha.
Yeah, we should play over there, right next to the volcano. So, can anything happen to my rock bands as they're traveling the map? Can they be, captured by enemies, pillaged, destroyed?
If you're at war with somebody, they can't move through the enemy troops.
Okay.
So
can the enemy troops kill them?
Yeah, they probably could.
They can kill my rock bands. Yeah. All right.
So that's a bummer.
It's a real bummer.
Yeah.
My rock band got slaughtered. Okay.
Also, I'll tease, I don't think we're going to talk about this fully till later on. But you know, in the future era of the civics tree, there are 3 new governments that we've teased. There's also new social policies. One of the social policies will help you sort of curate your rock band promotions a little bit more directly.
Ooh.
So kind of like there's a city-state suzerain bonus already for letting you kind of pick whatever apostle promotion you want. There's a way you can, if you're going for a culture victory, try to spec your government to really support all the music initiatives and say like, oh, you want to be an indie band? Great. You want to be this? Great. Like we'll just like pick whatever ones we want. So if you want to really like focus on a certain strategy, you can do that.
That's great. Now I did notice towards the western part of our cityscape, we have what looks like a very well-powered city.
Yeah.
I was planning to talk about this when it was underpowered, but it is now very powered. So
Yeah.
it's fine. Either way, it's worth talking about.
Sure.
This isn't something that we've touched on too much, but I know this was one of your
This is one of the systems that I've
Yeah.
worked with most closely, and especially with Brian Felges as well on the accumulating resources. So what power is sort of like a state that a city is in. A city can either be fully powered or it can be underpowered. Starting for most of the game, cities don't have any power requirements. Power is kind of like in this sense, it's electricity. As you get later on in the game, starting with factories, and then a lot of them, like the final buildings and districts, like research labs, like broadcast towers, they will all start having power requirements. And you know, you can have the building in a city that doesn't have enough power. They'll still give you some stuff. Like the research lab, I think, will still give you like 3 science or something like that. But if you really want it to be the most effective, you need to provide the full amount of power to that city. The way the numbers shake out is kind of like, you know, compared to rise and fall balance numbers, the buildings will give you about half as much yield if they don't have enough power. But if you do have enough power, they'll go up to 150% yield. So the idea is like, you know, you really want to keep your cities powered in order to keep cranking on all like your science, your culture, stuff like that. And the way you get power, there's kind of 2 main ways. The way that Albert's using right now is with the power plant building. So we had the power plant building dating back to the base game, but we've updated it into 3 different types. There's a coal power plant, an oil power plant, and a nuclear power plant. They will use coal, oil, and uranium resources every turn to sort of power their region. You know, like the coal that we were using on railroads earlier was taken away from our supply to power our cities, but thankfully Albert had enough and we're all good here. So yeah.
nice.
But that's another big contributor to climate change. And so once we get more advanced later on, we will get like, you know, more advanced tile improvements to help us create green renewable energy that doesn't cost us anything every turn.
Nice.
The other cool thing we should look at is what is being built to the west of Montreal.
I noticed that as well.
So we zoom in there a little bit. It's not finished yet.
Oh boy.
But we're working on a really spiffy set of
the
canals. That is
Panama
that is
Canal?
Yes.
Ooh.
A man, a plan, a canal.
That's
and-
Albert. He is a man with a plan.
Yeah. So yeah, that'll be really great once it's finished. And it, like railroads, will give bonuses to our trade routes if they go through it.
Nice. Now, we did have a little preview of the Panama Canal on social media, but I don't think it quite answered all the questions about it, because the Panama Canal can be built at different sizes, right?
Correct. It has to be at least 2 tiles in length, but there's not a requirement that you have an extra piece to it on both sides.
Okay.
So in this case, we do have an extra piece on both sides, so it's 3 tiles long, but
Nice.
the 2-tile version is also considered legal.
Great.
Coupe wants a joint war on Teddy.
Ooh. I don't know why.
So are we going to be able to get our bands to play?
Yeah, we are getting towards the end of our time here, but I want to see 2 more concerts just to see if we can get some more.
Yeah, I feel like we've let down the fans.
We've put on really bad concerts.
Yes.
People left in the middle, they're throwing popcorn on the floor. I don't know what people eat at rock concerts. I've clearly never been to one. Now, we do also have, I know we were talking about this before this stream, how much we want to talk about it, but that third icon under chemistry, is that what I think it is?
It is a mountain with a hole in it.
Oh, yeah, it is.
We're gonna let Anton field this one.
Sure. So
How astute.
yes, what could that be? So this is one of the big kind of categories of features we're adding in Gathering Storm is what we call engineering projects. So Panama Canal is one, regular canals, railroads, and then mountain tunnels. So mountain tunnels are an improvement you can build later in the game that lets you kind of zip around mountain ranges much more quickly. I think we're going to go more into detail on that in future weeks.
I think next week.
I think next week, in fact.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. But yeah, they're another way for you to really change the geography of the map and like, oh, I couldn't get from A to B without going around a really long thing, but now I can go straight there. So
nice.
And it will also improve if your trade routes are going through mountain tunnels, they're going to make extra money.
Here goes Carl's.
Carl's. What do we got?
No.
Agent 2.
What?
Wow.
Why do we have no musical proficiency? Okay, but we still have one more.
We do have
correct?
one more.
It's
Have we
the
named that one?
Underwater.
Under something
Underground
robots.
robots.
Underground robots, yeah.
Yeah.
They're very exclusive.
And then we were sending them to Jebel Barkle.
Yeah.
To play next turn.
Okay, cool. Good.
It'll be at a World Wonder. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be fun.
Lots of tourism there.
Oh, what just happened?
Free City happened.
Free City. There we
Yeah.
go. Oh, someone asked.
So Carl's, did they have the indie rocker promotion?
I think they were the one that did, yeah.
Okay, so that applied no matter what. So
Yeah.
we knocked them.
It
So
accelerated
even
it.
though
Okay.
the concert was lame, the effect was wonderful.
It was
so
lame.
They were like, I can't be part of this anymore.
All right,
yeah.
one last chance with
Underground
the
robots. Here we go.
With the volcano in the background. How
That's
can people
really great,
not
actually.
like
Gotta be.
and the Terracotta Army?
Okay, we got two.
Yep,
Opening
they're
act,
an opening act.
Okay.
Okay, so they have sold some albums, so that will boost their tourism.
Nice.
So yeah, they are
stick
at least
around.
around for another concert.
Good. Okay. Now, do they gain experience from that?
So that particular result, they got album sales, which
Okay.
will boost the sort of base amount of tourism they get in all
Great.
the other concerts. I don't think they did level up though.
Okay.
So the leveling up lets them get a new promotion the first couple times it happens, and it also gives you a higher base chance of the good results going forward.
Here's a question for you, Anton. Is power global or per city?
It is per city.
Per city.
But because of the regional effects of power plants, you could have a power plant in one city that is helping power multiple cities. But each individual city is like, okay, like, I'm Montreal, I need 7 power, and I'm getting 3 from coal. Or like, Vancouver's over there, it might only need 3 power. Just depends on the buildings that are in each city.
Right. All right. Well, is there anything else that you guys wanted to take a look at in this save before we get back to work?
It's been a busy day already, I think.
All right, we can bring it back to the studio then.